me tell you something, Elvis. You see, I am not serving Dr. Huxtable, okay?
Okay.
That's the kind of thing that goes on in a restaurant. Now, I'm going to bring him a cup of coffee just like he brought me a cup of coffee this morning. And that, young man, is what marriage is made of. It is give and take 50-50. And if you don't get it together and drop these macho attitudes, you are never going to have anybody bringing you anything, anywhere, any place, anytime, ever. Now, what would you like in your coffee?
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tunji's podcast. I am your host, Tunji Taylor Lewis. Y'all, for today, as y'all can probably see in the recorded version, I had a little Claire Huxtable, you know what I'm saying, pre-roll going on over there, or not pre-roll, just like a little Claire Huxtable clip. It's my favorite Claire Huxtable rant in the entire Cosby Show. On a side note, I'm thinking about watching The Cosby Show again, just because that was one of the shows I studied to try to get better at my writing and comedy acting and stuff like that. But anywho, today, based on that Claire Huxtable clip, I just want to talk today about the amazing women that raised me. This isn't based on any like Mother's Day or International Women's Day. It just so happens to be the subject that I was thinking about because I was having a conversation yesterday with my mother. And I think that was like the first time that I was able to express to her personally, like, you know, sort of like directly to her about how grateful I am to have the women that I have in my life who raised me. Just because, you know, they definitely set the standard high. Like when it comes to my mom, my grandmother, all of my aunts, including one aunt who helped raise me since I was about 4 or 5 years old. These were women who were, you know, career women, on top of the fact that they, you know, raised, you know, multiple kids. These were women who were getting their master's degrees, PhDs while raising multiple kids. Like my mom got her master's and she had 3 kids. She had me, my brother, she had me and my 2 brothers at the time. I don't think my sister had come yet. I think my sister came like right as she was finishing her degree. So this woman was, you know what I'm saying, raising kids, getting her degree, and at one point pregnant while she was getting her master's. And I think that, you know, a lot of times, you know, especially as boys, especially as men, you know, we look to our fathers as an example. And like my dad is absolutely like my role model. Like my dad is absolutely like, you know, my hero in a bunch of ways. Like, you know, I definitely model myself after him. But you know, as I definitely take a look over my life, man, just taking my mom, for example, like, you know, just the work ethic of that woman and like the other women in my life. You want to talk about my aunt, like my aunt's another woman. She had she was getting her PhD, and I believe at the time she was raising at least 1 child. She has 3 now, but at the time she was raising at least 1. And it was like an online course. It was like a course, like, you know, like we live in Vancouver. She was taking online courses for school in LA, you know, pursuing her dream, pursuing her career. I definitely have some amazing women in my life. Like I'm just very, very, you know, grateful for that. And I guess I'm very grateful for that because like I just kind of grew up without ever, you know, for 1 second thinking that, you know, women were in any way, you know, inferior to men in any way. And, you know, I'm grateful for that because like just looking, you know, at the way like a lot of societies work, you know, not just this capitalistic society that we live in, but also especially like in the African context, like, you know, West Africa, they definitely aren't as progressive as we are over here. In certain sections, you know, in certain sects, you know, there are good places, and I just so happen to come from a clan and come from a family where, you know, female empowerment was encouraged. And I think my grandmother is sort of the queen bee of them all, because I think my grandmother had like 8 kids, and while she was raising like a bunch of kids, like she was like, you know, out here like getting her degrees and stuff like that, writing books. My grandmother's an author. That's my mom's mom. My dad's mom is another one. Like that was the grandparent who I would say, you know, like definitely in my childhood I was the closest to. And she was, her whole story was that, like she grew up in Sierra Leone and then moved to Canada to pursue her doctorate degree, and she became a doctor. And, yeah, I mean, and just thinking about at the time of which she did it, like she did this back in the 70s or 80s, I believe, when it was definitely not easy to become a black female doctor, but a black female foreign doctor was even much harder, and yet she achieved that shit. Yeah, man, I just feel so blessed and so lucky that I didn't really have to go through much of a learning curve of understanding that, women are powerful as hell. Women can just have, an unbelievable impact on the people around them and like on the world. Like, I do remember like when certain friends expressed to me that, women are at a disadvantage in our society. I remember genuinely being shocked because, in this little bubble that I was in this family group that I was in, like women were the shit, man. Like the women who raised me, like, I've said it over and over again, but like I'm just very, very grateful for them. And I'll definitely like share a funny story. There was a time when I was I think it definitely made me very picky as far as the type of women that I wanted to be in a relationship with. And I can just remember, man, all through high school I wasn't in a relationship. All through university I wasn't in a relationship. And during high school I was cool. Like I wasn't really caring about that, to be honest. That wasn't really my focus. But getting to university, I'm just like, I'd like to have a girlfriend, but for whatever reason, just things weren't working. I definitely shot my shot at a couple girls, but like that didn't work out. And girls who would shoot their shots at me, I didn't want them either. So that was like a weird period of my life. And I remember I was having a conversation with someone, and someone very close in my family, and he looked at me and he was like, Tunji, you know what your problem is? I was like, what? He was like, the women you grew up around are making you very picky. I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, you grew up around women who are both beautiful and powerful. Both. Not one or the other, both. Beautiful and power. Career women, and they're beautiful women. And so that's the type of women you see yourself being with, and you won't accept anything less. And when I thought about it that way, it actually brought me a lot of comfort. Because, like, at first I was thinking, man, I just might end up being, just by myself and alone all the time. You know what I mean? I just might end up dying alone, you know what I'm saying? But that actually brought me a lot of comfort. It's like, oh, like, I just have, like, a really, really high standard. And, I definitely, especially with the girl that I am now, like, she's definitely, emulates, the type of women that I grew up around, beautiful, ambitious, career, career woman, driven, self-reliant, that sort of stuff. And then definitely, like, there were some other elements that made it tougher, I'm a Christian, so I wanted to be dating a Christian, being a jokester, being a comedy guy. Definitely needed somebody who could, who I could laugh with, and somebody who could make me laugh, those sorts of things. So all those other elements were part of it too, but that was basically the main thing that made it difficult for me to date. Like, I couldn't date just anybody. Like, I had to be somebody who, I had to be with somebody who was, like, beautiful and powerful, like this person said. And yeah, I need to find a different word than grateful, but that's just the word that keeps coming to my head. Just grateful. Definitely, I can definitely say that, when it comes to female empowerment, it's not something that I necessarily have to think about when it comes to the art that I produce or the opportunities that I'd like to give out one day. I think it's just going to be a natural part of me because, I can definitely appreciate, just how amazingly talented a lot of women in our society are, in our circles are. So, yeah, shout out to all the amazing women. Shout out to all the amazing mothers, aunts, grandmothers, principles, all that good stuff. Keep doing what you're doing. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all. That's all the time I have today. Peace out.